Hi, I'm excited to bring you the first episode of my new series. I get asked a lot of questions on my channel and I do answer every single one of them. But I thought it would be better to demonstrate some of the answers in a video rather than just typing out a response. And that's what I'm going to do. I'll choose some questions from my subscribers every single week and I'll answer them in one of these videos. It's unscripted, unrehearsed, unedited and completely unprofessional. No, wait, that last bit's wrong. Anyway, if you have any questions, then just drop them in the comments below or on any one of my videos, and I promise I will answer them. And if you want a sneak peek of the questions that I'll answer in this video, then just check out the description below, and I hope you enjoy this one. So the first comment, and apologies, I wrote these down and then my dog chewed the paper. So the first question I got asked was, Ruben Fremantle noticed I put my head against my left shoulder when I'm playing. You can see that my head is quite firmly locked against there, and he asked why I do that. Wow, that was an incredible miss. Why I do that, and it's obviously not to make myself a better potter, but my answer was that it was actually quite a subconscious thing to do. I never properly realised that I do it, and this is actually a great tip for you all. There's so much I've learned about my own game through doing these videos and then watching it back. I do things that I see it on a video that I never knew I actually did, so it's a great way to see what you're actually doing. But anyway, to answer the question, it was subconscious. I didn't plan to put my head there, but it does do two important things. People always tell you to keep your head still when you're playing a shot, and I've not got my head against my shoulder right now, and I can feel it's a little bit tricky. It's just kind of floating there. Putting that against your shoulder actually gives it some leverage, and it's actually really hard for my head to move now. So it's kind of locked in place. But the second point, I think this is probably where it's come natural. I did a video recently on your dominant eye and finding your centre of vision. So you don't tend to cue from the middle of your chin, because you don't look directly at between the centre of your eyes. You tend to find everyone's got a dominant eye, and you tend to find that your centre of vision, so the actual picture that you see every day as you're walking through life, is more towards that dominant eye. So it's between your nose and your dominant eye. Now if I move my head slightly to the left, then my cue is now lined up. That's actually under this kind of point here, and that's where I aim from. So that's probably why I've developed it naturally, because it's good for my vision. A bit of an easier one to explain. You rang the tang, asked what size my table is, and I do get asked this a lot. This is, and it's probably because only a quarter of my audience are from the UK, but this is a UK pool table, and it's the same size pool table that we use throughout all the UK. There's hardly any variations on a UK table at all. So overall the table is 7 feet long by 4 feet wide. The playing surface is 6 by 3, and the balls, so a good bit smaller than the US tables. The balls aren't actually that much different. So the object ball is 2 inches. I think the US is 2 1/4. But most importantly, this little thing is 1 7/8 inches. So it's an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the object ball. And this is the only cue sport that's got a smaller object ball, smaller cue ball than the object ball. And it actually makes a huge difference. It makes playing screw shots, a lot easier. You can get a lot more screw back, and because the white is lighter, it's kind of bouncing back. Whereas if you try and play a topspin shot, you get much less. You see, it doesn't go through as far. Next one, Manny P asked, why do I call a double, a bank shot, a double? Now, I do call it this, but it's not just me that calls it this. So this kind of shot. So that is called, in the UK, I mean all over the UK, that is called a double. If anyone called it a bank shot in the UK, they would probably be laughed at. I don't know why it's called a double. My guess would be because you're kind of doubling the ball on and off the cushion. But apart from that, I've no idea why it's called that, so if anyone knows, let me know in the comments. My question would be, why do you call it a bank shot? We just have a lot of different terminology between the US and the UK game for some reason, don't know why. I've moved the camera around for this one as I think it'll be easier to demonstrate if you can see what I'm doing here. Super D actually asked me what bridge do I use when the cue ball is close to the cushion, and there's two different ones, it depends on something. So if I've got a shot like this, you know, it's awkward to get my hand on the table, there's not that much room, so I would tend to put my bridge on the cushion. There's a bit of space between the cushion and the cue ball, so this tends to be the only time in the UK that a closed bridge would be used. So just, you know, I'm putting my cue up against my thumb, I'm looping my index finger over, and the cue is kind of locked into place there, and you know, I would bridge like that. I don't think that's the bridge that you will be talking about. I think it'll probably be more where you've got a shot like this, because this is an awkward little shot. You don't have a lot of room on the cushion here. You couldn't really do a closed bridge here because your cue's so close to the cue ball. So what I tend to do is I will use my normal open bridge, and I will try and move it back, you know, far from the cue ball to give me a little bit of room. So you can actually put your kind of palm on this part of the table and then just lay your fingers across here. Now, normally, you know, you've got your hand on the table like this, and your cue is on top of your thumb and your index finger, and this actually lifts it up to about the middle of the ball. But because you can only see a touch of that ball, you know, you can't actually hit the middle of the ball. So if you did that, you know, my cue is actually up high, so it's quite difficult. So what I would tend to do is almost lie my cue flat on the table. I've then got, you know, my palm against the upright of the table, my fingers across the cushion, and you can see where my thumb is there. It's kind of in an upright position. I've created a groove between my index finger and my thumb so that the cue is really, really low down. And that way I can see much more of the cue ball than I could before, and I'm not digging down on it as much. But this is important, you know, if your cue is flat, you're aiming right at the top of that cue ball, especially in UK pool where the cue ball is smaller, and there's a great chance of miscuing. So I tend to just elevate my backhand up slightly so that you're bridging down on the ball. Now obviously if you're bridging down the ball, it means that you need really good cueing. You need to be, you know, cue through that ball straight, because if you cue slightly offline, then you swerve the ball. So concentrate on delivering that cue through straight. But my big tip for this is, you know, if you've got this type of shot, then what to do is, you know, I grip my cue normally about here. Now if I play that, I've got a lot of space back here, you know, it feels uncomfortable, there's a bit of strain in here. Bring this hand further down. That reduces the length of cue between that hand and your bridge hand to almost what it is normally, and it just feels like you've got a lot more control over the cue, feels a lot easier, and you should start making more pops. Now this last question, I actually got asked by about 20 different people all in the same video. So I won't mention you all, but I'll tag you all in the comments so that you can all see this. And it was that video again about your dominant eye and your centre of vision. So I am right-handed and my dominant eye is my right eye, and that tends to be what the majority of people are, or they're left-handed and left eye dominant. What I got a lot of comments on was that people would say that they're right-handed and left eye dominant, or they're left-handed and right eye dominant. So what do you actually do? Because my advice was, if you're right-handed and right eye dominant, you find that centre of vision, which I said is between my right eye and my nose, it's someplace over there, and that's where you cue across. Now if you're right-handed and left eye dominant, then obviously your centre of vision isn't here, it's over here somewhere. So people were asking me what to do, or they're like, you know, am I just a lost cause? And absolutely no. I come from a snooker background. I love snooker. One of the best snooker players of all time is right-handed and left eye dominant, and there's another great player who's the exact same, and they tackle it in two different ways. So what you can do is, as you approach the ball, so that one of the best players of all time, what he does is he turns his head very slightly to the right. So if I put the cue in the centre of my chin, he turns it like that. And all of a sudden, the cue is more over my left eye. Now, that's John Higgins. If you don't know who he is, just look up YouTube. He's an unbelievable player. One of the best of all time. And at one point, I did think that he was the greatest cueist of all time, or the greatest cue sport player of all time. The second, Gary Wilson, and this looks quite unorthodox. He's got quite a strange technique, but he's a great player, so it works for him. So instead of him moving his head and dealing with that, he moves his cue. And I'm not entirely sure what he does. He's moving it closer into his chest. He doesn't seem to move his head. So he's moving it closer into his chest, so it's under his left eye. I think what he does is he bends his arm, so that his arm is more in line as well. So he kind of plays like that. So you can get it under your centre of vision. You just need to move something, whether that's your head slightly, or if it's a cue further into your body. It does look more natural if it's your head. And back to that earlier point that Ruben made, that my head is turned slightly to the left to cope for my right eye dominance. If you're left eye dominant, then you would just turn it slightly to the right. And if it works for John Higgins, then it can probably work for anyone. So if you've got any questions, then pop them in the comments below and I'll pick the best ones to cover off in next week's video. Thanks for watching.